basically, when my daughter was a baby, she was swaddled, so, wrapped like a little burrito when she was a baby, and she could no longer be swaddled because she started to roll. And when babies roll, it's not safe to swaddle them anymore because they need to be able to use their arms to push up and roll over. But she went from sleeping really well to not sleeping at all. I mean, it was horrible, actually. And I started researching if there were any products to help transition a baby off of the swaddle. So to go from the swaddle to something, because she just couldn't handle it. She had a very strong startle reflex, and that's when babies jolt awake suddenly because they feel like they're falling when they can't feel their edges like they would in the womb or in a swaddle. And so I couldn't find a solution anywhere, and out of exhaustion and desperation, I discovered after researching that when a baby is able to feel their edges, it helps them self-soothe back to sleep. So, but I couldn't give her edges like I could in the swaddle because she was rolling and it wasn't safe. And so I thought, how do I give her those edges, but still the ability to safely push up and roll over? And that is when I pulled out my little sewing machine that I had from when I was in 8th grade, when I was very young, and I ended up sewing something that gave her the freedom with her arms, but also gave her that slight resistance in the arm span so that when she jolted, it would self-soothe back to sleep. And the first night I put it on her, she slept 12 hours, and I couldn't believe it. Oh, that's such a great question. Thank you for asking, because he really deserves so much credit for where we are even today. In fact, when we first started and I was trying to do everything, he was going to work so that I could be able to build the business. And it got to be too much to where when he would come home at night, he would help me package orders and ship them. And he was the very first one, because I couldn't keep up with all the sewing. He went to a local fabric store and to the lady that worked there and said, "Hey, will you sew for my wife? She needs help. Will you help her?" And that's when I first got my very first person to help sew with me. And he has been so instrumental. He's very good about thinking outside of the box and finding ways to take things off of my plate so that I could, do more designing of patterns or working more with customers. And he was just, we would not be where we are without my husband's help. Yeah, that's a great question. So the Mu sa Sabi was born because I was listening to my customers, the moms that I worked with that bought our product, and they bought the Sleeping Star, and then their babies started growing older, and their kids still wanted that cozy feel, just of the fabric that they had grown to love, and so they really wanted a next step. So that's what the Mu sa Sabi was. It was a next step after the Sleeping Star. And they also, I wanted to do something different. I wanted it to be different because I wanted to create a brand that wasn't what people could buy everywhere else, and the Sleeping Star provided that, but the Mu sa Sabi provided something a little different in the hand and foot coverings. So it can be converted to kind of like a very, very large Sleeping Star, or it can become pajamas. I know as a mom, it's hard, and there are days when you just want to give up. And there are days when you're so tired that you barely have the energy to feed your child and put them down for a nap because you haven't slept. And the reason I want to be able to bring the Sleeping Star into Japan is because I get it. I get what it feels like to feel alone, to feel like you're trying to do it all yourself because sometimes your spouse isn't able to come alongside and help you, and yet you want to be the best mom that you can be. But it feels a little overwhelming, especially if you're a first-time mom, not knowing, am I doing the right thing? Am I gonna mess up my kid? You know, am I doing the right thing as a mom? And one thing that I want to be able to do with bringing the Sleeping Star into Japan is to just take one thing off of your list, off of your super mom list. I want to be able to give you relief, give you the sleep that you need to be able to put the energy into your child that I know you want to be able to put into your child, because you are raising the next generation. And if I can provide just a little bit of encouragement by giving your child a little bit more sleep, then that I've done my job.